I need a sheet metal brake, and I'm not going to buy one because I'm not going to use it all that often. But I got a bunch of scrap stuff hanging around the shop. I'm going to build one. Sounds like something that's interesting to you? Stick around. Got a couple of 3-foot pieces of angle iron sitting there, and I got a crummy old foldable sawhorse. I should be able to make something out of that. So what we're going to do with this first piece of angle iron, we're going to use it like this, and that's going to hold the piece that we're intending to bend, and then we'll just bend up the lip this way. So the first thing I got to do is figure out a way that I can have some nice flat spots on the end, because I envision a couple of bolts with maybe some crank handles or something just to clamp the piece that you're working with in place. We'll start there. So what I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to try and inlay this into here, but instead of having it stuck up on top like that, I'm actually going to try and recess it into here. So in an effort to get that kind of cut down in there, I've got a cup saw, and it's just about the same size as this. It's probably going to be a real pain in the butt, but anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a 1/4-inch hole from this side, because that's what the arbor for this cup saw takes, and I'm going to endeavor to drill through here and make a nice round hole that I can lay that washer into. See if this is going to work out. So I'm going to measure this, and looks like bang on an inch. So if I measure back 1/2 inch, drill my hole 1/2 inch back, that works out in my books. I guess since I've got this here, I guess I might as well use it. Ooh, not really minty, but see if you can bring that back around. Looks better. Now in my mind, this is going to work great, but I don't know how it's going to actually work. Watch out, but get out of the way, dog. Yeah, of course the battery died. Well, I think that's cut good enough. If I just zip in here this way with a zip cut, I think that's going to be just about a good landing spot for that washer I was going to use. Okay, now let's see what we can do about cutting this without destroying the whole thing. Okay, little more cleanup grinding there, and we should be good to go. Well, that's all right. Now what I'll do is I'll just weld that in, and that'll be a good spot to to mount my clamp for the edge. Have to duplicate it on the other side. The only problem with duplicating it on the other side is I completely destroyed my my cup saw, and that's an expensive Greenlee cup saw, so that kind of pisses me off a little bit. But hopefully I can find a way to do that a little more gently on the next one so that it doesn't cost me a cup saw for every cut that I do. We'll figure it out. So that's this one. And that's this one. Now, in hindsight, I destroyed 2 cup saws doing this, and it was probably a complete waste of time. What I should have done is right there, I should have just cut it straight across this way with an angle grinder, and then just cut it straight through this way with the angle grinder and been done. But I guess you live and learn. So I just dressed them up, and complete waste of time what I did with the cup saw. It's a real shame because it cost me like probably $50 between the cheap cup saw I bought and the good one that I wrecked. Oh well, whatever. Well, as luck would have it, I've got 2 sizes of 3/8 bolts, too long and too short. So I guess that's going to be it for now. I'm just going to pack it up. I'll be back in a little bit. So I slept on it, and I've already modified my plan. I decided that little squinchy sawhorse just wasn't going to be sturdy enough for my base for this thing. And let me show you what I figured out. What I got here is a 4-inch piece of C-channel, and she's pretty sturdy, pretty heavy, just what I found in the pile of crap I have here. And I wish I would have just gone looking for this initially. I think it's going to be a whole lot better, and it's going to be something I can I got some kind of weird ideas as to how I'm gonna mount this thing, but that's still to come. So I just drilled through there and tapped it. Now I still need a little bit longer bolt, but I'll sort something out there. But I got to come up with some kind of a spring in there just to lift that up when I loosen them off. And there'll have to be some kind of a little clamp turny thing. I'll figure something out for that too, just to make those easy to operate, because obviously this is what clamps the piece of metal that you're bending that will go in along that side. You guys are all smart. I know you already know that. So for the crank handles on the ends, I figured something out. I just grabbed a couple pieces of ready rod, and I'm going to build something out of that. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now I just cut the piece of ready rod that I happen to have around the shop, and I ran a nut on it, and I just used some red Loctite to hold it in place. I could have just touched it with the welder or whatever, but then I would have just had to pull that out, and I'm not going to waste my time doing that. So this longer piece is going to end up being my handle, but I think probably what I'm going to do is I'll just peel the threads off of that on my gorgeous belt sander, and we'll bend it up and we'll go from there. So I skipped a couple steps. Forgot that I was actually recording this whole deal. And what I did, smooth this part off a little bit, like I showed you with that belt sander. Put a couple pieces of heat shrink on here for a handle. And now these are just my little crank handles that'll tighten this down on top of my workpiece. Worked out pretty good. So now this piece is going to go on somewhere about there, but we got to find a way to hinge it up, because this is going to be the bendy action right here. Now I'm smart enough to figure this out, but I got to use the right kind of hinge to make sure that this hinges over and bends it to a nice 90 without having too much of an arc or too much of anything like that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Hang tight, I'll figure it out. So I found a couple of these little springs. They're actually pretty stiff, and I'm just going to put them on there and see if they're going to do what I need to do to lift that clamp up off there when I loosen my crank handles. Wish me luck. Would you look at this? Oh, she's slicker than boiled owl turds, I tell you what. So first off, I tried using that other piece of angle iron that I had for my movable piece, my bending piece. It didn't work. It just, maybe I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but I'll show you what I did, and I think I got it figured out the way it should be now. So I took a little piece of flat iron, and I just plug welded it onto my hinges, and what it does, it'll allow me to have a nice tight bend. Didn't seem to matter how I tried to use that piece of angle iron. It just I got a real rounded bend, and I was not happy with it. So I figured I better give this a try. And you know what? I had to buy this. I just didn't have anything that was here that was the right thing, so I had to drop like $9 and go and buy a piece of metal down at Canadian Tire. Oh well, should work out the way I want it to do. Now I just got to come up with something to build me a handle, and we'll be pretty much done. Now these are probably way heavier than they need to be, but you know what? They're 18 inches long. They're super stout. They're like solid rod. I have no idea how or why I even have this. I had a 36-inch piece and I just cut it in half. And I'm going to put that on for a couple of handles. And hopefully that's going to be good. It's a little more than I wanted, but what the hell. I had it around here, so I'll use it. Well, now, I welded her all up. I just decided to weld around the outside edges of those hinges, and I just welded these up here on either side. Should be plenty strong for what they need to be. Just a bit of an update on my sheet metal brake. I went to use it and it didn't work out that well at all. Let me show you what I had to fix. Now the problem is, this piece, though it did exactly what I expected it to do, what I wasn't thinking is that it bowed out in the middle and it didn't create a consistent even bend. That's where, had I had the intelligence, I would have stuck with the angle iron and I would have just flipped it back so the angle piece came up and then back out this way at the top. So what I'm going to do to try and fix my screw up is I'm just going to weld that along there to stiffen it up, and we'll see how that works. So got that on there, just gave it a glob of weld every so often along the back. Hopefully that should hold it. If not, I guess I'll finish welding it, but I'm sure that should be just fine. Now that piece, this piece here, which is still hot and I better not touch it, that piece should give me the rigidity that I need to make the bends that are necessary. let's just give that a whirl and see if I'm right or if I'm wrong again. So just so that it wouldn't move around at all, I actually tack welded this to the top of the bench. And let's have a try. I'm going to put this right dead center, and we're going to see what kind of bend that it makes right at dead center, because that's obviously the closer to the center, the more it was bowing. So I'm just going to crank this down right about there. I'm still not convinced that the way I've got my hinges is right, but let's give this a whirl. So honestly, it's already 1,000,000% better than it was before. Oh hey, well, that looks workable. Let's have a look. Well, that made a real nice bend. It's trying to get that focused in there. It's still not like sharp tight, but maybe for the way I'm doing this, that might be the way it is. Most often I won't be doing perfect square tight bends anyway, but I'm just gonna have to mess around with like this thing. Obviously it slides back and forth. If I pulled this all the way up, I'll get a tighter 90. So it'll just be something that I'll have to mess with. Let's try another bend here. Give it one of those. So what I've done is this piece, I've moved it as far forward this way as I can go. Let's see what that does to our bend here. I'm going to have to obviously clearance some welds along the edges here because I've got a little bit of interference there, but that's okay. We'll be able to sort this out. We'll be able to see what's going to happen anyway once I'll be able to get full movement of that there. Better, but still not, to be honest with you, still not quite what it needs to be. Should have thought of this before I bent both ends, eh? So that's definitely better, and it would have come out a whole shit ton tighter. The only thing is, if you look right in here, this bit of weld here and here was bumping up against this here and this here when I pulled this forward. So what I'll do is I'll just clearance these a little wee bit, and I think we should be good to go. The only other thing that I may do is, like, between these, I may actually weld stiffeners into those too, just to make sure that thing is nice and solid all the way across. But I'm just going to clearance those two corners and see where that gets me. Well, that's it. Pretty happy with the way that turned out. I'm confident it's going to do anything that I ever needed to do. I'm going to have to build some kind of a stand for it, but I really want to try and incorporate a stand for that as part of a pipe anvil. So if that sounds interesting to you, maybe you want to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you know when I put up another video. And if I decide to make some changes to that thing and how it works, and if I want to try and get it to make a little bit tighter 90s or whatever like that, I'll post that up here too. Thanks for watching.